Hey, I want to ask you a question. Uh, who here wants to be sexy? All right, some of you, that's it. That's probably not a question you expected to get in a church service. But I'm for real. I mean, who here wants to be sexy? All right, some of you. Here, I wanna just explain the definition of sexy so we're all on the same page. The word sexy doesn't just have sexual connotation to it. I mean, it does, but it's not just that. The word sexy is defined as this way: to be attractive, appealing, and exciting. Attractive, appealing, and exciting. There you go. The opposite of sexy is boring, dull, and drab. So I want to ask you, who here wants to be boring, dull, and drab? Nobody. No, you don't. Don't mess up my sermon, okay? So, but we all want to be sexy. We all want to be sexy. And again, it does have a sexual connotation, but it's not just about that. It's about being attractive, appealing, and exciting. And we use the word sexy when describing things like I got this sexy new phone, right? Or you get a brand new car and it's like I got this sexy new car. We also use the word sexy when things are not so sexy. And so if you're thinking about work or job or some of the tasks that need to be done, you may say, you know, crunching the numbers and getting the budget in order isn't that sexy, but it's important, it's vital for the company to thrive. And so we use this word sexy to talk about things that are attractive and appealing and exciting, and we also say that it's not so sexy when it's not attractive, appealing, and exciting. But again, it just needs to be done. And the truth is, and here's what I know about each and every one of us, is that we want to be sexy. We want to be attractive and appealing and exciting. We want to live sexy. We want to work sexy. We want to drive sexy so that when people see us, they say, "Ooh, that is hot." And I'm not talking about us, I'm talking about the car. You know, they see the car and they think, but we all want to live sexy. And I know this because for some of you, if you didn't want to be sexy, you wouldn't post to any social media at all. That's the reason why so many of us post to social media. We want to be sexy. We want to be attractive, appealing, and exciting. We want people to see what we ate and say, "Oh, that looks good. That's sexy," right? We talk about our routines. We post about our vacations. We post about all the things going on in our life. Why? Because we want people to look at it and see it as attractive, appealing, and exciting. And so each and every one of us want to be sexy. Now here's another thing I know, and I don't know if you know this or not, but everything is spiritual. Everything is spiritual. And so you don't have a work life and a home life and a family life and a spiritual life. You have one life, and all of your life is spiritual. Everything about you is spiritual. And the reason why this is true is because you were made in the image of God. And so you were made in the image of a spiritual being. Whether you believe that or not, you have spirit in you, and you were made in the image of a spiritual being. And so everything is spiritual. Again, whether you believe it or not. Because you might not believe that, but it doesn't mean that it's not true, right? I might not believe that the grass is green, but it's green whether I believe it or not. Unless it's in the winter, then it's yellow or brown. But it's green. That's what it is. The sky is blue. Whether you believe it or not, it just is what it is. So just because you don't believe something doesn't mean that it's not true. And the truth is, you and I are spiritual beings, and so everything we do is spiritual. And what we're going to explore over the next 5 weeks is the truth that God invites us to have a sexy spirituality. A spirituality that's attractive, exciting, and appealing, where people would look at our lives, that people would look at who we are, the things we have, the hope, the joy, the peace, the contentment, the discipline, all these things. People would look at that, and that would be exciting, appealing, and attractive to them, and they would say, "I want what you have." And so we want to have a sexy spirituality. And before you, I don't want your butt cheeks to pucker up, so just calm down. This isn't coming from me, right? I'm not the one who came up with this. Before you think, "Oh, this is some new age stuff, you're just trying to attract people." No. Jesus actually said this very thing 2,000 years ago when he was preaching one of his most famous sermons, the Sermon on the Mount. He said this, Matthew chapter 5, verse 14, says, "You're the light of the world. A city on a hilltop cannot be hidden. And so no one lights a lamp and puts it under a basket. Instead, a lamp is placed on a stand where it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your good deeds shine out for all to see, so that everyone will praise your heavenly Father. What Jesus is saying here, in my own paraphrase words, is he's inviting us to live a sexy spirituality where people look at our lives, they see it's appealing, attractive, and exciting, and they say, I want what you have, and then it points them to God. And so Jesus is inviting us to a sexy spirituality. The reason is because Jesus lived a sexy spirituality. Jesus was the sexiest man ever. He was attractive, appealing, and exciting, so much so that people flocked to him. They were drawn to him because they wanted to be like him. They wanted to live like him. They wanted to know more about him. And the reason why Jesus was so sexy, so attractive, appealing, and exciting is because he practiced some not-so-sexy spiritual disciplines. Jesus taught some not-so-sexy spiritual disciplines, and not only did he teach them, but he also practiced them. Because how many of you know that in order to be sexy, you got to do some not-so-sexy things, right? I mean, if you look at a person, just thinking about a physical attribute, you look at a person and you see them, and they're attractive, they're appealing, they're exciting looking. How many of you know that they put in some not-so-sexy workouts at the gym? Right? They had to do some not-so-sexy things to look the way that they do, to get the six-pack abs, to get the beautiful hair, to whatever it is. They had to sit however long in a very not-so-sexy process of getting their hair done for 4 hours. They had to do some not-so-sexy things of meal planning and meal prepping and saying no to things, and do some not-so-sexy things like counting macros and taking in protein and making sure they don't have too many carbohydrates, but just enough carbohydrates. And in order to be sexy physically, it requires some not-so-sexy work that nobody ever sees. And the same is true if your job. I mean, you want the new sexy dream job. This is the thing, man. If I had this would be so great and amazing. But in order for you to have that sexy dream job, you got to do some not so sexy things like showing up early, showing up on time, staying late, putting in extra work, giving your all, doing your best, being organized, responding to emails, responding to phone calls. You got to be great at your response ability so that you can get greater responsibility, but that is some not so sexy work for you to get the sexy work that you want. In order for us to do the sexy thing we want, it requires some not so sexy things. I mean, even just thinking about being a pastor, like this might look sexy. I'm not talking about me, but I mean this right here. This is the sexy time of my job. I get to stand on a stage, I get to give a sermon, I stand in front of the lights and in front of you, and it's like, wow, this is great. And somebody might look at that and say, I want to do that one day. I know when I was young, I thought that I want to do that one day. I want to stand on stage in front of people. I want to preach sermons. That's so great, that's sexy. But to do this sexy part of the job, which is not that sexy, I got to do some not so sexy things. Like, I don't know if you know this or not, or if you've ever thought about this, but every Sunday at 10:10 a.m., I have an oral report that is due. And this oral report has to be good. It has to be relevant. It has to be funny. It has to be challenging. It has to connect with you. And so I got to do some not so sexy work during the week of writing stuff. I have to get ahead in my writing. I have to then practice it and memorize it and go over this so that I can stand on stage and do this. And I have to do this because if not, what's going to happen is eventually you're going to start showing up and you're like, well, I don't know. I mean, his jokes weren't as funny as they used to be, and I'm not getting the goosebumps like I used to, and he didn't make me cry this Sunday, so I don't know. Maybe we should go check out some other church where they're going to... You see the pressure that I have? Like, in order to do this, there's some not-so-sexy work involved. And then this is just part of my job. Like, I have to lead, I have to cast vision. I'm looking at systems and databases and structures and all this not-so-sexy stuff during the week. This is just a portion of it. And I used to think, before I became a pastor, like, that's the thing I want to do. I don't have to work at all during the week. I just stand up on Sunday, talk for a half an hour, and then I'm good. No, it's not like that. So you see the sexy stuff, but it's all the not-so-sexy stuff that you don't see that helps me do what I do. And the same is true in your own life. See, if we're going to live a sexy life, one that's attractive, appealing, exciting, then it requires that we do some not-so-sexy things. And what we're going to do in this series, Not So Sexy Spirituality, is we're going to look at some of the not-so-sexy things that you and I need to do if we're going to have a a sexy kind of spirituality, one really that we want. Because the thing that we want is a life that has peace, one that has hope, one that has direction, one that has purpose. But in order for us to live in that sweet spot, we got to do some not so sexy spiritual stuff. And I'm just going to be open with you right now. The one that we're starting off with is one that I hate. Like, I do not like this at all. Like, so much so that I had a conversation with God about it a while ago, and I was like, hey, God, I'm not going to do that thing, because when I do that thing, I'm not a good person, and you want me to be a better person when I engage in these spiritual disciplines, so I'm just not going to do that. And God's like, okay, if you don't want to. And he was like, no, I don't care if you want to or not. You got to do this, because I've commanded you to do it. And again, if you want to live the life that I've called you to, then this is part of doing that. But again, this one right here, and we're going to do this. All of us collectively are going to do this. And I'm going to let you know, I'm not looking forward to it. I hate it. I think it sucks. But we do hard things. So I want to show you this first not so sexy spiritual discipline. But before I do that, I want to give you the context behind the content of what we're about to see. So in Matthew chapter 5, 6, and 7, Jesus preaches his most famous sermon. It's the Sermon on the Mount. And so what happens is Jesus has this crowd of people on this Mount Trashmore-like hillside, and he is talking to them, and he's giving them this sermon. And Matthew, one of Jesus' followers, records the snippets of what Jesus wrote, kind of the synopsis of this sermon. We have it collected for us in Matthew chapter 5, 6, and 7. And right in the middle of this sermon, Jesus starts talking about some really difficult disciplines, some not so sexy spiritual disciplines. And he gives us the motive behind these disciplines. So I want you to see what he says. And also, as Jesus talks about these things, he talks about them like as a matter of factly. Like of course you're going to do this. Like, there's no option for you to not do this. So he's like, hey, when you do this, like, of course you're going to do this. Here's what I want you to take into account. So he says this, Matthew chapter 6, verse 5. When you pray, see, there it is. Like when you pray, like, of course you're going to pray, right? So, and for him, it's not even an option that we don't pray. He's just thinking, okay, if you're going to follow me, then when you pray, don't be like the hypocrites who love to pray publicly on street corners and in the synagogues where everyone can see them. I tell you the truth, that is all the reward they'll ever get. So what's this mean? Jesus, when he talks about, he says, don't be like the hypocrites. What he's referring to are the religious leaders of the day. And so the religious leaders of the day, what they would do is they would stand on street corners, they'd stand in public, and they'd say these prayers with this lofty language so that people would look at them and be impressed with them and say, oh my goodness, they are so spiritual. Look at how they pray. They're so eloquent. They know all the things to say. Look at them. And he said the reason why they do it on street corners and for everybody to see is what they're really looking for is admiration. They're looking for praise. They're looking for people to lift them up. He says, if that's your motive, then you'll get exactly what you want. Like these religious leaders, they want to be admired and acknowledged. They want people to look at them and say how great and awesome they are. And you know what? They're getting exactly what they want because that's what people are doing. But Jesus is saying, but God's not hearing their prayer. Like, God is not going to give them the thing they're praying for. He's not going to listen to their prayer because they're not doing it for an audience of one. They're not doing it just to pray to God. They're doing it so other people will see them, pat them on the back, give them an applause, and say how awesome they are. So essentially what these religious leaders are doing is they're trading something greater for something less. See, the greater thing is this, going to God in prayer and God hearing your prayer and God meeting you in the midst and saying yes to your prayer. Or saying no to your prayer, or saying not right now to your prayer. But that's the greater reward when we pray, is that we commune with God. We're there with God. God is in our midst. We are in his midst, and we have communication with the creator of the universe. What these religious leaders are doing is they're trading that for admiration and recognition from people. And Jesus says, yeah, if that's your motive, you just want to be seen by other people, then you'll get that. No problem. But if you want to be heard by God, here's what I want you to do instead. But when you pray, go away by yourself. Shut the door behind you and pray to your Father in private. Then your Father who sees everything will reward you. So here Jesus says, do your prayers for an audience of one, not to impress anyone, but instead, pray to God alone. Now, I don't want us to misunderstand this. It's okay for you to pray in front of people. Like, we have groups that meet in homes, and there's times where we close out in prayer. I'm going to pray later on at the end of this message, and it's not because I want all of you to hear what I say and be like, yeah, way to go, James, you're awesome. No, that's not it. So it's not never pray around anybody else. Maybe that's why some of you don't pray when we ask you to pray. Like in groups are like, who can pray? And maybe you're thinking, I don't want to pray in front of everybody else because no, that's not it. Please, if you're a Christian, raise your hand and say, I will pray. So help me. It's always me and my wife and my daughter praying in our groups. So, step up, pray. So you can pray in front of people, but again, the motive isn't so that people will notice me or anything like that. No. But Jesus says this, hey, just so it's not a temptation for you, and just so you don't get intimidated or feel self-conscious, because sometimes we do that. Well, I don't want to pray in front of people because they might be judging my prayer, and they might. Listen, if somebody's judging your prayer, that's on them, all right? Don't be, well, I don't really know what to say. You just talk. You know how to talk. You talk all the time. So now you're just talking to God, right? But Jesus said, just if it's a temptation for you and you're like, oh, look at me, and you become self-conscious, you get intimidated, here's really what I want you to do. Like, here's what I want the center of your prayer life to be, the meat and potatoes of your prayer life. I want you, when you pray, to schedule a time. Not when you're driving in your car. You can pray while you're driving in your car. Not when you're in the shower. You can pray in the shower. Not when you're in the bathroom. You can pray in the bathroom. Some of you, the only quiet time you get is when you're in the bathroom. Even then, if you're a mom, you probably don't get that, right? Because kids are like, anyway. He says, hey, what I want you to do, designate a time where you go into your room. You shut the doors, just you and God, and you pray, and nobody knows. And you don't post about your quiet time that morning. You don't take a picture of you and your Bible and your coffee. You just pray to God. You don't tell anybody. He said, what will happen is God will hear you. And that's what you want. So this is how we pray. What we do, he's saying, is we pray for an audience of one. And I love the story of Bill Moyers, who was a special assistant to President Lyndon B. Johnson. He was asked to say grace before a meal in the family quarters of the White House. And as he prayed so softly that hardly anyone could hear him. And so the president, in the midst of Moyers' prayer, said, speak up, Bill, speak up. We can't hear you. And then Bill stopped mid-sentence, didn't even look up, and steadily said, I wasn't addressing you, Mr. President. See, Bill Moyers understood I'm praying for an audience of one. I'm not saying this grace so everybody can hear me. If you can hear me, great, but I'm not addressing you. I'm addressing God. Now, if you pray in public, there are times where you want to pray loud enough for everyone to hear so everyone can benefit from your prayer, but even then, who are you praying for? It's an audience of one, not for the recognition of other people. And so here's what Jesus says. He says, I want you, when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and do it so nobody knows. Do your spiritual disciplines, these not-so-sexy spiritual disciplines that I'm about to tell you, do them so they'll never know, so no one will ever know. And it's what you do in the secret, in the dark, hidden away from everybody else, that will shine in the light for everybody else to see. It's the not-so-sexy spiritual disciplines you do that nobody ever knows about, because when you start to tell other people, now it becomes sexy, because then they're like, oh, wow, you're a prayer warrior. The not-so-sexy spiritual disciplines you do in the dark, away from anybody else, nobody knows. That is what permeates in your life. It changes you into who you want to be so that you begin to live a sexy spirituality that's attractive, appealing, and exciting, where people see that in the light and they say, I want what you have. And then you tell them about God and they're drawn to our God because of the things we're doing when nobody ever sees it. So this is the motive. We do things so that nobody ever sees it. Now, here's the not-so-sexy spiritual discipline that I hate and I don't want to do. Matthew 6:16. When you fast, don't make it obvious, as the hypocrites do. For they try to look miserable and disheveled, so people will admire them for their fasting. I tell the truth, that's the only reward they'll ever get. But when you fast, comb your hair, wash your face, and then no one will notice that you're fasting except your Father who knows what you do in private, and your Father who sees everything will reward you. So there it is. When you fast. Now, fasting is when you go without something, right? Fasting is when you go out without something. Here in the context, it's about fasting from food, but you can fast from anything. You can fast from sugar, you can fast from salt, from caffeine, from alcohol, you can fast from screens, from social media, you can fast from your phone, from relationships, you can fast from anything. But fasting is when we go without something so that, and this is the important part right here, so that, this is vital, you got to get that part, so that we can indulge in something else. So fasting is when we go without something so that we can indulge in something else. Fasting isn't just going without something. It's so that we can replace the thing we're fasting from with something else. And so if I'm going to fast from social media, I would fast from social media so that I can indulge in face-to-face conversations with people, in face-to-face relationships. So if I just go without social media, but I don't replace it with something that I really want, face-to-face conversations, then my fasting isn't as impactful. So I'm going to go without something so that I can do something else. I'm going to go without food so that I can indulge in spending one-on-one time with God during the time that I would be eating. So if I'm not eating lunch right now, instead of just surfing the internet or scrolling through Instagram, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that time where I would be eating a nice juicy cheeseburger, and I'm going to spend time with God. And I'm going to be praying for strength to get through because I feel the hunger pains. And dear God, I don't want to be doing this, right? So I take that time to spend time with God. If I fast from dating other people, then I indulge myself in becoming the kind of person that I want to be, the kind of person that I would want to date. So I'm going without something and replacing it with something else. If I fast from spending money on myself this month, then I'm going to replace that with saving that money for my future self. And so it's not just, I'm not just spending, but I'm not spending so that I can save for my future self, for my future, or I'm not spending so that I can use what I would spend on myself to spend on other people. And when I do that, when I replace it with something else, that's when I become better. It's not just going without something for the sake of going without something. It's I'm going to go without this so that I can do this and emerge on the other side better than when I started. This is the purpose of fasting. You with me? All right, 4 of you are. Nice. So, this is what fasting is. Now, here's the reason why I don't like fasting. Because I get hangry when I don't eat. Like when I don't eat, I can feel my blood sugar levels dropping. Like I am not a good person when I don't eat. I'm not nice to be around. And it's in these moments where, I'm just praying to God, like, God, you don't want me to fast because I'm not better because of it. And when I don't eat, and I don't fast all the time, okay? Like I can probably count on a hand how many times I've fasted in the past, right? Maybe 5. The reason is because I hate it. I don't like it. I'm not a better person because of it. I get hungry. I get hangry. My blood sugar, all that stuff, right? But also, like when I fast, so Jesus says, when you fast, don't let anybody know about it. I hear that and I'm like, well, then what's the point? Like, I want to be like the hypocrites. I want to be all disheveled, and I want to be all like, hey, guys, how you doing? Because I want people to be like, hey, what's wrong with you? And I'd be like, oh, man, I'm fasting, man. I'm going without food. And I want people like, oh, wow, that's awesome. You're so courageous. I'm like, oh, I'm doing it for the Lord, Like that's what I want. I mean, really, when I go through something that sucks like that, I want everybody to know so they can be like, wow, you're strong. You're really brave. Way to go. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm just suffering for the Lord. Like, that's what I want. But Jesus says, don't do that. Jesus says, don't be like me. Not be like him, but don't be like James. Because I do it because I'm like, I want people to know. If I'm going to do something that sucks, I want you to know that I'm doing something that sucks. So you can be like, way to go. But Jesus says, no, don't do that. That's not, Because then you're like depriving yourself for something that's not even worth it. Instead, when you fast, like, don't let anybody know. Don't let anybody know. And that's so tough. That is so difficult for us to do in this society, in our culture, because we live in a trendy society, right? We live in a trendy culture where, like, we say, if you didn't take a picture of it, didn't happen. You didn't post it, didn't happen. I went and worked out this morning. Show us a picture, it didn't happen. No, it did happen. I was there. I know I was putting in the reps. It happened. Didn't post it, didn't happen. Like, we live in this kind of society, and so because of that, we can feel the temptation, we can feel the lure to, like, I gotta let people know, hey, I'm eating healthy, look at my meal that I made. The one time I ate healthy this week, right? Because we do that. I know I have. Like, I'll post a picture, it's like, yeah, we're meal prepping today, and then, like, the next morning I'm eating a donut or something like that. I don't post that. I don't post the crappy meal that I have, but I'm like, look at how good I am. Right? So we do that because we live in this society where we got to let people know. I want to tell you what's going on in my life. And we do this with so many different things. Like, again, we live in a trendy society, a culture of, like, I just got to let you know. Like a while ago, the thing was CrossFit, right? Like people were doing CrossFit, and I felt like everybody was doing CrossFit. Not everybody was doing CrossFit, but I felt like everybody was doing CrossFit because I heard about CrossFit all the time. And you knew when somebody was doing CrossFit because they told you. Yeah, they didn't shut up about CrossFit. It's like, yeah, man, I'm doing CrossFit. Yeah, I pay $400 a month to go to this gym, but it's all about the workout. It's all about the community, man, you know. But, yeah, so I'm doing CrossFit, you know, CrossFit. And it's like, okay, right? People talk about CrossFit all the time. Now the thing is ice baths and cold plunges, right? I mean, dear God, like, nobody was doing this stuff before, but now all of a sudden, Joe Rogan talks about it, and everybody's like, oh, ice baths, cold plunges. And so they're making videos and posting about it, and they're like, I made my own ice bath and all that stuff. And they're going in it. And I just see people talk about cold plunges and ice baths all the time. And the reason why people post about it, the reason why they make videos, the reason why I tell you about it is because it sucks. It's horrible. It's terrible. Nobody wants to do that. And because it sucks, they want to let you know, I'm doing this thing that sucks. So that you look at them and you're like, oh, man, you're brave. You're strong. Way to go. You're doing something I don't do. You're tough, right? That's why people post that stuff. And Jesus is like, no. If you're going to do something for me, don't let people know about it. And people do that with fasting. I mean, now, again, we live in a trendy cultural society, and so there's this thing, intermittent fasting. You've heard of intermittent fasting, right? If not, you've heard of it now. But intermittent fasting is essentially where a person says, okay, I'm going to eat during this window of the day, so I got 6 hours where I can eat. I got 8 hours where I can eat, and then out of these windows, I'm not eating anything. And you know when somebody's intermittent fasting because they tell you. Like, this is the scenario. This is the situation. Nobody, right here. Absolutely no one. Person intermittent fasting. Oh, yeah, thanks for inviting me out to dinner, man, but I can't come to dinner because I'm intermittent fasting right now. And if I came out to dinner, you know, I couldn't eat anything because I'm intermittent fasting, and it's not in my window to eat because I'm intermittent fasting. Then, like, if it was just like a half hour later, then I could come to dinner, but I'm intermittent fasting. And then the person's like, I didn't invite you anywhere. What are you talking about? Right? And they're like, oh, yeah, no, but if you were going to, you know, if you're going to invite me, I could come, but I can't eat because I'm intermittent fasting. But again, if it was like a half hour later, then I could come. Then I won't be intermittent fasting because I'll be in my 6 hour windows where I'm able to eat. But right now I can't eat because I'm intermittent fasting. Right? We just talk about this stuff, and we can't shut up about it. And Jesus says, hey, no. If you want to live a sexy spirituality, do some of these not so sexy things and shut up about it. Don't say anything because you're not doing it for recognition. You're not doing it so other people can know. You're not doing it so other people are like, wow, you're such a spiritual warrior. Way to go. No. I mean, if that's why you're doing it, then that's what you'll get. But I don't think that's really what you want. What you want is peace. What you want is hope. What you want is joy. What you want is breakthrough. What you want is clarity. That's why you're doing this. So when you do it, don't say anything. So, here's what we're going to do. We're going to fast collectively as a church. Now, I'm not looking forward to this. I don't know if you are or not, but here's the deal. You came to church to change, right? We came to a service to change. You didn't come to a service to hear a sermon on fasting and then not do it. So throughout this series, I just want to warn you, man, I want our church to grow. And by the way, it's been cool. I've been seeing some momentum. More and more people are showing up. More and more first-time guests. More and more of you are inviting your friends, and they're showing up. And so that's really cool. And there's just going to be a day, one day, where we're going to have to, put these curtains, even further back and put these curtains even further back. There's all this space over there you guys don't even see. We're going to have to put these curtains all the way back. We got a bunch of chairs back there. We got chairs on our trailers. We're going to have to put all those chairs out. I mean, this place is going to be filled with people. And I'm just so pumped for the momentum and the stories that I'm hearing of how people are inviting friends and how people are coming to church for the first time. So that's great. Keep it up. And I don't want to squash that through this series, but we're going to do some difficult things. But here's what I believe, that if we're challenged, if we do some difficult things, I think that's what you want in your life. Because I think you've been going through the motions, you've been going through the same old, you've been doing the same things, and you don't want to be stuck and stagnant. So in order for us to grow, we got to take steps and we got to do some difficult things. And so that's what we're going to do during this series. And I think our church is actually going to grow because of that, because I think you want to grow. And so to do that, we got to do some difficult things. So here's what we're going to do this week. We're going to fast. Again, we showed up to church to change. We don't want to just hear a sermon on fasting and not do it. We want to be doers of the word, not just hearers of the word. So what we're going to do this week is we're going to put this into practice. And we're going to fast collectively as a church. So here's the plan. This Friday, 3 p.m., you stop eating. All you do is drink water. Friday, 3 p.m. to Saturday, 3 p.m., 24 hours, we're going to go without food. Only drinking water. And then on Saturday, my wife and I want to invite you over to our house, and we're going to do a fast break potluck where we're going to celebrate this fast that we just did for 24 hours. And so you'll get to bring a tasty entree for others to share. We'll be outside hanging out around a fire. The weather's going to be 66 degrees. It's going to be a beautiful day, which is unlike most days where we plan something that's outside and it always rains and we have to reschedule it. Not this Saturday. This Saturday, the weather's going to be beautiful. It's going to be great. It's going to be amazing. And we want to invite you to come celebrate as we break that fast together. And so what we're going to do this Friday is we're going to fast from 3 p.m. to Saturday, 3 p.m., 24 hours. And you can see the information for this potluck that we're going to do in our app. If you just open up the app that we have, which means you need to download it. If you haven't already, you just open up the app. There's 3 little dots at the bottom right that says More. You tap on that. Then there's a calendar, or there's a section that says Events. You tap on that. It'll take you to our calendar, and you'll see the Fast Break Potluck. You just tap on that. There's a form. It's in a link. You just copy and paste that link, put it into a browser. You sign up. You let us know that you're going to come. You let us know what entree you're going to bring, and then we'll send you the information. We'll send you our address because we're not going to post it online. I'm not going to say it here because our podcast gets streamed out to all the world, and we are international. Did y'all know that? We're international. I don't know if anybody listens internationally, but they have the capability, right? So we're doing that. But you got to sign up to get the information. You got to sign up to get the address. So we're going to do that. Now, I want to address the what ifs. What ifs. What if I got a medical condition and I can't fast? Don't fast. Okay? You're an adult. You can make that decision. Don't fast. You're not going to go to hell if you don't fast, okay? So you don't have to do it. What if I have plans Friday and I can't skip dinner because, people are planning something for me and I don't want to go to the dinner and not eat because, I'm fasting. And I don't want to tell people I'm not fasting, and so what do I do? Then pick another day. You don't have to do it Friday. Pick another day. Do it on Tuesday. What if, so pick another day for you to fast this week. What if I come to the potluck and I have allergies and somebody made a fish dish and I can't, don't eat it. That's it. Just don't eat it. Just stay away from it. That's it. What if, all kinds of what ifs, listen. The reason why are we doing it Friday from 3 p.m. to Saturday at 3 p.m.? Why not this? Because I made the decision we're doing it then, okay? You can do whatever you want, but we're doing it collectively Friday at 3 p.m. to Saturday at 3 p.m. because I figured it's probably the easiest thing to do, right? Because you're going to have lunch, have a late lunch that Friday, real close to 3 p.m., and then you got 24 hours, and then we get to eat again, okay? Again, I don't want to do this. I'm not looking forward to it. I hate this stuff, but I got to do it. I got to do it. And it's because I don't like it, it's because I don't want to do it that I need to do it because I got to take that step. The thing you hate to do, the thing that's difficult, the thing you don't want to do, that's the thing you need to most do because it's going to help you grow. So I got to take that step. And we're doing it collectively. Here's why. So that there's camaraderie with this, so that there's moral support with this, so you know you're not in this alone. Because there's going to be times where you're going to fast alone, and that might be tough, but this time around, if it's your first time, man, you're going to know I'm not in this alone. So when 7 p.m. rolls around and you're like, man, I want a nice juicy steak, you can be like, no, because I'm in this with other people, and we're doing this together. So we're doing this for camaraderie. So Friday, 3 p.m. to Saturday, 3 p.m., and then we're going to do this break fast potluck. Now, can I come to the potluck if I don't fast? Yeah, you can. Please come. You just have to bring like extra food, okay? No, you don't have to bring extra food because we won't know if you fasted or not. We're not going to be like, who fasted? Okay, no. But even if you don't fast, come to the potluck. It's a great time for us to connect, for us to share stories, have a cigar, just hang out, right? And so that's what we want to do Saturday, 3 p.m. Can I bring my friends? Yes, please bring your friends. Even if your friends don't fast with us, bring them. Even if your friends don't go to church, bring them. Well, but they don't really believe in God. Perfect. Bring them, right? Like the purpose of this is for this is to help us break our fast and celebrate, share some stories, have a cigar. We're not going to share a cigar. You got to bring your own. But for us to hang out, tell some stories and all that, but then to get to know one another and build some friendships. Because the truth is, we come in, we gather like this, we sit in a service, and many of us are strangers. I want to help you get to know some people so you move from being strangers to friends so that this church starts to really feel like community and like this is my place with my people. So Saturday, 3 to 5 p.m., and we're doing until 5 just because, it starts to get dark and we don't want you at our house all day. So we got an end time, 3 to 5 p.m. You can stick around for another half hour probably. But so we're going to do this, and we're just going to celebrate this step that we're taking, right? But I don't know if this fast really counts with what Jesus said. Jesus said this, when you fast, don't make it obvious. We're making it obvious in this fast because we're going to do it Friday 3 to Saturday 3. Everybody knows. But this is a step for us to do this, knowing we have camaraderie, knowing we're not in this alone, knowing that we're doing this in community. And this step that's going to take place this week is going to lead you to your next step that might take place 2 weeks from now. When you decide, you know what, I'm going to fast for 24 hours and nobody's going to know. This step is a step that leads you to another step that might happen 4 months from now. When you're going through something difficult and you need some clarity and you say, God, I'm going to fast for 48 hours. It's a big step for me. I don't even know if I can do it, but I'm going to do it because I need some clarity on this decision and I'm not letting anybody know. But I'm coming to you. I'm seeking you because I need a breakthrough in this area. The purpose for this fast this week is to give you a step so that you know you can do it. You can do it. And we're rooting you on. We're cheering you on. We're in this together, but it's a step that leads to another step, to another step, to another step, so that hopefully this becomes a lifestyle, so that when Jesus says, hey, when you fast, you could be like, yeah, I actually do that. As opposed to like, what do you mean when I fast? No. But you'd be like, of course, yeah, because I took that step, that 1 week with everybody together, and now it's just become part of a rhythm in my life, where once a month I fast for 24 hours. Or whatever it is for you. So this is a step. So this week when you fast, here's what I want to encourage you to do. Because again, fasting is going without something so that you can indulge in something else. During the times that you be chowing down on some fries, some Chick-fil-A, chicken nugs, instead, take time to pull out your Bible and read it. Take time when you would be having dinner to maybe get your family together. And you just pray. And you thank God for all that He's given you. During the times that you would be eating breakfast or brunch, I know you make a mean omelet. Just forgo that this time. Just sit in silence and pray for strength. Pray for clarity. Whatever it is you need from God. God says, when you fast like this and you don't tell anybody else, I'll hear you. I'll see that. And I'll meet you right there. So we're going to take a step this week. Collectively, I hope you'll join us as we fast. I'm not looking forward to it, but I am looking forward to hearing the stories and the victories and the breakthrough that you experience on Saturday. So be sure to sign up. Let us know you're going to be there. We can't wait. You know, every single week we have an opportunity to remember the sacrifice Jesus made for us on the cross by observing communion. Communion is this time where we take some bread and some juice, the bread reminding us of Jesus' body broken for us, the juice reminding us of his blood shed for us. We do this not as a ritual, but as a reminder that Jesus has called us to live a sexy spirituality. And we can only do that through the power of His grace and His love shown on the cross. These not so sexy spiritual disciplines we're going to talk through each week might be really difficult to you. There might be tough steps for you to take. But that's why we come back to communion every single week, so that we can remind ourselves it's through His strength that we can do this. It's through His power we can overcome. So I want to invite you, anytime you'd like to take communion by taking the bread and the juice, and we're going to just sing a chorus of a song we sang earlier. And my hope is that you allow these words to wash over you as you're reminded of the sacrifice Jesus made for you. Because He really does desire for you to live a life to the full. A life that's light and free. But again, in order to do that, it does require some work. Engaging in these not so sexy spiritual disciplines. So let me pray for us. And we'll take communion. God, I want to thank You so much for Your love, Your grace, Your mercy. You know, we want to be more like You. We want to be that light on a hill. We want to be that city that people see and are attracted to. We want all the things You offer. So God, would You just help us, strengthen us, give us the discipline, the determination, the vision to do some of the difficult things, to have those things. I mean, this is one of them right now. Just showing up for a service is a not so sexy spiritual discipline. For some of us, it was a struggle to get here today. For some, it was a conversation. Are we going to go or are we not going to go? But we showed up. So we're going to do things like that so that we can become the people You want us to become. So this week as we fast, I pray we feel a closeness to You like never before. I pray You meet us in the midst of our hunger and we see You so clear like never before. We want to break through. We want to change. We want to become more like You, and we're praying that in Jesus' name. Amen.